I forgot to mention a couple of days ago I was sewing. I was sewing the silk hexagons for my honeycomb headboard wall hanging on my baldacchino in Italian canopy, and I'm using shantung silk, and it has little slubs in it, and there's no right side. It's reversible. One side looks like the other. Unlike charmeuse, which is means charming woman, is my understanding in French. I have some hanging behind me. It's very silky and smooth on one side, glossy, smooth. On the other, it's matte. So there's an obvious face and an obvious wrong side, right and wrong side, and outside and inside. And what I found with charmeuse when I think of using it is it shows every bump. And so anyway, I noticed that as an older woman, even though I strive to be fit, I'm kind of like, you know, I've got a few more dimples on the backside if I go looking. It would seem, anyway. It seems the charmeuse shows that. Anyway, back to the baldacchino headboard. And what is it with pets, right? Because I've seen this in other people's videos. I start talking, Minna wants to be a part of it. She's like, who are you talking to? I am right here. Okay, so I was sewing, and it looks like I'm on course to get that done this week, which is great because it's been a year. It's been almost a year of committing to starting to make each hexagon, and with the English paper method. So I purchased hexagon shapes. I believe they're 1 inch. I'd have to check again to be sure, but I think they're the 1 inch. And then I use invisible glue and then fold the fabric over, and then I hand sew each shape and then pull out the paper because I wanted heirloom quality, thinking that I'm going to make this, I'm going to hand stitch it, my concept, and I need to get the paper out because that paper will turn to dust over time. And shantung silk hexagon shapes looks like a honeycomb. I'm using a rich gold, and not a perfectly bleached stark white, but I'm using the next step to it, slightly off-white parchment. Okay, and so I was sewing that, and I was in the art room and finishing up. I've got a few more rows to do, and then addressing the edges. So it looks a little like lace because I have half of the, so it's on a white silk background, and then I have the edge in white hexagons with gold in the center of the hanging. And the white looks a little bit like lace, and the way that it comes out from the straight edge. And it has raw edges on the back. So I have decided to double face those white hexagons on the edge, and that will seal in the raw edges. And I also, it sits well with me as a metaphor that edge is double faced in silk with no raw edges. And what else? I was sewing, and my hands are cut in between holding the silk and holding the needle. And I'm sewing, and I'm like, there's a little bug in my hand. There's a little bug in my hand. I mean, like, get this needle and thread through there, and then I smushed it. So I was on Earth Cam, and if you weren't aware, then I said, you know, it's a fruit fly. It's out of season. The backdrop of that is I was listening to Jars of Clay, and they are a Christian band and a music group, and I like them. I like them not because of their Christian content. I like them because they're exceedingly good musicians. And I haven't listened to them in a while, but I pull them up on MP3 Juice, and you could just type in an artist, and then they give you a number of selections. And the song that was playing by Jars of Clay was I Want to Fall in Love with You. So that's playing in the background as I'm sewing, and I'm like recognizing there's a little bug in my hand. Why there's a little bug in my hand? You know, I keep Bounty towels nearby because in case I prick myself with the needle, you know, I could tape it or I can compress because I'm working with white silk and I don't intend to wash it. You know, so I'm aware to keep my hands clean, and it's just like, really, there's a bug in my hand. Okay, reach for the towel. You know, get that off of there. Anyway, I thought that was interesting meta. I think I wrote this down as well. Show someone that you care. Those are thoughts that I wanted to put on, well, I had put on the original class 107, but then that video didn't work, so I redid it. So as soon as I stopped it, I'm like, I missed these notes. I thought it was an interesting synchronicity, the bug in my hand, okay? You're still bent. You're saying do ought. Don't on do ought, okay? Okay. Later that day, here's the thing. If you're not willing and able to pony up to receive even, okay, you're basically saying and staying with your action that you're not mature enough to love. So you actually need this sort of dysfunctional government to beat off from and to be bred off from, okay? The megabyte. Megabyte, mend, bend, bed, debit, debt, debit, bit, has asked, task, pass the cup, the true airspeed of the sum and the cum and the crumb. You bend from the doomy mend to the die I is so mend malfeasantly, and the dish I home end, okay? Again, Dow with wart, thief end. It's basically saying you're not mature enough to love or be actually self-sufficiently go of even. GL glossy. Losing. Innocence and reflection wherever you are. Debt to go, a go. If you're presenting value when you never meant it to, TOWHO and TOOTHADEWEID, tooth had do with you, you're scamming. You're scamming that you came, okay? And it is inevitable that will sham and shame same ends, okay? understand and hand det to tag give I it law with weight. Okay? Weight the tone and bone as necessary and to be tarry and stare at. Cess is a tax or a levy. What you're vending, you're making venerable, okay? Now anyone can see that since you're not doing with you, for the want of it, that you're talking to two thieves, all right? And you're not capable. Standard deviation, SD. That little burp, if you heard it, that was Minnow. That was not me. Right, Minnow? I'm not sure if I got this in the last recording. I've been doing little snippets this time. So trust. There you have it. The meta, metal. Meta, thanks. L over L. One tall talk. There's more to that definition. It's the verb. sting operation. If you can't set your man in place, AD, you don't deserve grace, AD. And consequently, con, seek, to, toe, went, to telly, the belly, you are not the grace, AD. It's a DOF frame in fame. Because you're requiring, you that are red are requiring to be accountable to two that are red. Det thief end. Framing DOF stupid as your fame and also your frame. Sorry, your flame. Okay? Poor Doft. He doesn't know what to honestly do. On your account of two who are red, to tower were, and where here, even ain't through. We're red. Okay? It's first Friday, and it's night, and we just got out of the art room with EarthCam. I don't really know if the EarthCam is working, except every once in a while I can see that someone hits the Hall of Fame, so I get a snapshot. So it's coming across on your screen. It doesn't come across on my screen. It's probably the same reason I can't order from Amazing Grass. It's the browser. My Chrome browser will not update anymore on this Mac Mini, and so I don't get the visual. You know, on the website, I don't get to see that it works. I can pull it up on my phone, but not on my computer. Let's see. I was in there tonight with Duncan, and Duncan always has interesting meta. When I listen to her and her stories, they inform me, okay? When I view her through my own meta, all right, she seems to have stories that weave in a way that you can interpret using my cosmology, my self-definition of every letter and letter arrangement. And she was speaking tonight about watching Minnow on the counter. Like, you're doing that in front of me? Well, It's my fault. I put his treats up there sometimes and tell him to go get them after I leave. Let's see. Duncan was talking about her cancer medication. She brought up Governor LePage, that everyone over 65, anyway, it affected their health care, and she can't pay for her cancer medication, etc. And so she eats at Preble Street. Is it Food Salvation Army? I'm not really sure. They've got a free kitchen, okay, and where they collect food from grocery stores like Trader Joe's that don't pay their employees enough to not be on food stamps. At least they didn't when I worked there, but they would throw tens of thousands of dollars of food away, okay, a night on a holiday, okay, going into a holiday, because the food, the free food distributors don't work. They don't give it to the employees either, and they don't pay the employees enough to not be on food stamps. Anyway, Duncan, she grabs a free meal there, and she was saying that tonight they made a goulash, and she described it as macaroni, a bit of carrot, a bit of broccoli, a bit of cauliflower, beans, but worst of all, it was all mashed together. And she didn't know what they were thinking, you know. She said she and the guy next to her enjoyed biscuits, okay, and only biscuits. I mean, she said she took a bite and she was like, ew, and then she took another bite just to make sure, and she said she put it in her napkin. I'm like, oh, you're being polite, right, and discreet, like, I can't eat this. And she was like, I don't know what they're thinking, you know, we're not fancy people. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like it's fancy, it sounds like it's missing character, okay? And Duncan has lived in the country and knows about the farm, and I don't know if she lived on a farm or not, but she says that food's supposed to be thrown out, and you know, it's supposed, what is not used is thrown out for the pigs. And I said, well, you know what, you know, I commented earlier, you know, are the people that's making that food, are they eating it? Okay, she's like, no. I'm like, well, that tells you something right there, okay? If they're not eating it, it's not good, okay? It wasn't, you know, it wasn't meant to be served with thoroughfare. And thoroughfare. And so then she commented about the pigs and that the food should be thrown out, you know, because it goes to the pigs. That's where it goes, you know, next. And she was indicating that, you know, maybe they recycled it into a goulash of indescribable mush and grayness. And it left a bad taste in her mouth and her memory. She kept talking on and on about this meal today that she took two bites of, and you know, and relished the biscuits just to highlight something in conversation with someone else that was there, not enjoying the meal as well. And she talked about, you know, taking it to the pig, it needs to be thrown out to the pigs. And I said, you know, maybe that's who it was made for, okay? Maybe this meal was assembled for the pigs, okay? And they just served it to you first. What else? I went out and I found, so it'll be backwards, Nerd Up Creations. The guy's funny. So it's First Friday tonight. There's a lot of artists on the street out here on Congress Street in Portland, Maine, and the first Friday of every month. And he does great artwork with pens, pencils, whatever he has. And that's a smaller version. He had bigger, like poster size. And then he had a little table next to him, and it was knitted caps and great chunky thread and a nice solid even stitch. And I don't knit, and so I asked, I didn't know there's a girl there. I'm like, did you knit these? And he answered from the table over. He's like, yes, I did. I'm like, you knit these? And he's like, yeah. He says it's crochet. That's all I know how to do. I know a few stitches. And I go, what's it made out of? Because it feels really nice. And he says it's lion's wool, and or something soft that I like. And you know, that's the yarns he likes to use. And I tried to. He's like, you could try it on. It's because I like this little one. It was kind of came down and covered your ears with a flap. Then he sewed little ears over it, so it's like an animal. And I liked it. I mean, I was curious. And Minnow's humping the down. Oh yeah, Minnow's humping the down. It's getting busy. It's Friday night. I couldn't get it over my Princess Leia buns. Okay, I'm not trying to do Princess Leia, but my hair, it works in this hairstyle for the length that I have. And I also feel that pulling it straight back in a ponytail kind of makes my face look pretty severe and rectangle. Didn't always used to be a rectangle in my knowledge, but anyway, that's what I'm working with at this time, crossing the river. So I like it up and I like it off my shoulders and my neck because I throw heat off my back, and it's comfortable for me just to have it up. And Minnow's got a talent. He humps the down backwards. Like he'll walk backwards with it. Anywho, I tried it on, and I told him, I'm like, I can't get it over my Princess Leia buns. So the flaps like went like this, and then the crown went up like a little condom head. I'm like, I go, there was a window behind him, and I said, I can't get it over my Princess Leia buns, but I said, and he laughed, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in the Ming Dynasty. I mean, for a knit. And he laughed too. Anyway, so good convivial conversation, little tidbits for what it's worth, relating to you. I think one of the things that perhaps embracing this language is there's a fresh appeal for meta, okay? For reading in between the lines, the content, the context, the content, the subtext. There's a new opportunity to relate and gestate, guesstate, okay? Sate. Minnow's still humping the down, and I just checked the news. Anyway, thought I should check in. It's, what's the date today? Friday, October 5th. Seriously, I can't seem to put this news away. John Roberts. That's showing up because I liked that boot and looked at it. Anyway, alright, so that's what is up. Cold medicine.